Hello YouTube, so this video is me getting involved in the SSC Tuatara controversy, which I've been following for the last week, as a lot of you have, following on from Shmee150's video about whether this record-breaking run looks right or not. And one of the elements that's involved in this, as many of you will know, is the helicopter that was chasing the car at one point and is visible in the 360 video following the car along on the right hand side of the car when the car is apparently doing nearly 200 miles an hour. And the feeling is that this helicopter isn't able to go that fast. So somebody in comments mentioned it'd be great to get the black box for this helicopter, and that made me think about Flight Radar 24, because for those of you who may not be aware, Flight Radar 24 is this website that monitors all commercial air traffic all around the world all the time, and using the transponder information and GPS information from those aircraft, it is able to show exactly where aircraft are at any given time. So we're looking at a live view here of the New York area, just highlighting one aircraft here that's just landed, coming in from the west here, circled around and landed at JFK Airport. And we can follow any one of these other aircraft and see where it's come from, exactly which aircraft it is. We can see it's at current altitude and speed and so on. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could find this kind of information for the helicopter that was filming the record run. So by looking at the SSC press release here, we can find that the filming was done by Pursuit XM2, which is an aerial filming company. It's interesting here, they did mention they were going to be using a T-33 jet, because that was the only thing that could keep up with the car. For some reason they didn't use that jet on the day. They decided to stick with a relatively slow helicopter. But that's a question for another day perhaps. But following these breadcrumbs, we find XM2 has their website here. Well, this is an article about them. So their helicopter here is November 221 Papa Alpha. And if we go into Flight Radar 24, we can actually search for that call sign. And although it's got a picture of a business jet here, this is actually the record in Flight Radar 24 of all the flights it knows about in the last 30 days or so. For November 221 Papa Alpha. And we can see here it is on the 10th of October, the day the record runs occurred, flying around the Las Vegas and Pahrump area. And we can play back these flights, so this is all very encouraging. I've looked at a couple of these flights already. There's a couple of just positioning flights. The helicopter was positioned overnight in Pahrump and flies down to the highway where the filming took place in the morning and flies around. But this flight starting at 14:09 UTC seems to be the one to do with the record run. These are UTC times, so Las Vegas is 8 hours behind, or possibly it was 9 hours behind at the time. I'm not sure when the clocks changed in America, but this would have been approximately, what is that, 8, take away 8 from 14, you're left with about 6 in the morning, something like that, on Las Vegas time, which seems to be about the sort of time of day that you would do this kind of thing. I'm not sure, I haven't seen a reference in any of the press releases as to what time of day these runs took place. But if we scroll up, we can see the map here. This is a replay of this particular flight. We see the helicopter starts up in Pahrump at the beginning of the flight over here, and we can play the flight forward. We see it flies forward. We can see the shading here is showing as the sun came up in Las Vegas. So just before dawn, the helicopter arrives down at the sort of staging area, flies around a bit, probably just taking general B-roll footage or whatever for a while. and towards the end of the day it flies back to Pahrump, and that was at about 4:20 UTC, so that's about 10 o'clock, about 10:30 in the morning Vegas time. So at some point in the middle here we should have been able to see the track of the helicopter as it followed along on the actual alleged record-breaking run. But this is where things get a bit disappointing, I have to say, and I don't want to feed any conspiracy theories, although I can imagine what's going to happen. If we look at the graph of this flight, we can see the orange trace here is the speed of the helicopter over time, and the blue line is the altitude. It's recorded about 4,000 feet calibrated altitude. I don't know how accurate that is. Vegas is about 2,000 feet above sea level anyway, so this would indicate probably the helicopter was flying around 2,000 feet above ground level, but you would expect it to be a lot lower than that most of the time. But in any case, this seems to match up with the helicopter flying around, taking footage of the goings on. We can see it flying up and down the test road area here. But unfortunately what seems to have happened is, because they're flying at such a low altitude when they're filming the car, there are big gaps in the record. So I think the record run starts about here, and unfortunately if I try and scrub through this trace of the helicopter's position data as slowly as I can, we see there's just a big jump here. You see the white line at the bottom of the screen there, just jumping from about 1526 UTC, it jumps straight across to 1552 UTC, and there's no data for those 25 minutes. So if you were the sort of person that was into conspiracy theories, you could make a lot of hay with this. I'm not one of those people. I think the helicopter was just flying so low, probably down 50 feet, if that, chasing the car down the road, that the local airfields and radar stations weren't able to pick up its transponder until its altitude increased again. So we see the recorded altitude never drops below about 3,500. So possibly if the helicopter was below that altitude during this time, then that would explain why there's no data. So it's all very sad. I was hoping to be able to provide some real new information here, but I can't, so I'm sorry about that. If you've watched the video this far and were hoping for a slam dunk rebuttal of the records, the data just isn't there to genuinely say one way or the other how fast that helicopter was moving in that video. What we can say is the helicopter never goes above 150 knots. We see here as it's flying back to Pahrump at the end of the day here. It zooms off in a pretty straight line back to Pahrump to park up for the night, and its maximum speed at this time never goes above 150 knots. It's around 140 at the fastest. The whole rest of the day here it never goes above maybe 110 here. And similarly on the other flights, the other positioning flights on the same day, it never goes above 150, much more likely to be around 120, 130, even when travelling in a straight line. So certainly does confirm the idea that that helicopter is not capable of going above 150 knots with the camera gear attached to it, and is unlikely to have been doing so when it was chasing the car. So I hope you found that interesting. Sorry it wasn't more conclusive, but at least it adds a bit more information to the whole debate, and I continue to watch what happens with great interest. Well, bye for now, and thanks for watching.